Steve Dunstan, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Hey, yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
We're very excited to have you in the Export Beer Garden studio. It's our first step into the world of fashion, probably a much needed one. I've been getting a little bit of stick lately for my skinny jeans, and I think Shay's been getting a bit of feedback on his jorts.
I don't think there's anything wrong with jorts. I know I've got a lot of heat for jean shorts. That reaction tells me that maybe I've made a fashion faux pas, Steve.
Well, I mean, it's so hard to keep up. It really does change. So the best just to be yourself.
Yeah, it does change. My wife made mention that I should go for the baggier pants because the 90s style is in at the moment. The 90s style is back. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Right. 100. It's mind blowing actually. Obviously, I suppose I'm going to give away my age, but growing up, coming out of high school in the 90s, that's it had massive influence on myself. And good to see it back in fashion. We can really. At our age group, or my age group, I can be a leader because I know it well. The 90s.
Well, the 90s, Huffer's a 90s child, right? What was so good?
Right.
What, in your opinion, what was so good about the 90s?
It's interesting. We talk about Huffer started in 97, but really a massive part of who we are today and how we even started was the influence from the 90s, like what was happening in pre-97, I suppose, and exactly that. What is in fashion right now? And beyond the fashion and the clothing, the culture, the music, the people, the sense of building a community and how you did that back then, very tactile and real. But yeah, for me, that meant skateboarding. I went to a school that you could skateboard at school, and I made my decision to go to that school because of that and the fact that you didn't have to wear a uniform. So some really important decisions I made along the way to... that sort of set me up to where I am now. But 90s, I thought when you were saying, what did you say, J's? I thought you were talking about Jordans.
No, jean shorts.
Oh, jean shorts.
Jorts.
I didn't even know. Jorts. I thought you were saying Jords.
No.
Jordans.
No. If I was wearing Jordans, that would be fine. I wouldn't get any heat for those. They're not hardcore jean shorts. They are jean shorts, though.
Yeah, if you talk about Jordans, I remember coming out of high school in the early 90s, the Jordan 2s, 3s and 4s, 5s. Wow. And we just saw Darcy out there had a pair of Jordan 6s. But that, because they're trending right now, but that was huge. Michael Jordan, basketball, the movement of what he was doing with sneaker culture back then and now seeing it today is just, it's quite mind blowing how, you see 16-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids going, we're going to get some Jordan 4s. I was like, what?
Did you rock a Reebok pump back in those days as well?
I did have a pair of those.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. A bit of a gimmick, I suppose. You just got
I had some at Hilltop Primary School in '94. Did you rock a Reebok pump, Steve?
Nah, never got into the Reeboks. Wore a lot of. I should have said this at the start actually. Excited to have you on because Huffer played a major role in my wardrobe through my teenage years. Huffer and Volcom were pretty much my go-to brands.
Cool. Yeah.
But you mentioned Darcy, we just saw him out there wearing a Huffer Puffer.
That's right.
Does that still give you a real kick? You're walking into a building and you're seeing someone and they're wearing your clothes?
And I came out of the lift and he gave me a massive hug. Yeah, in our jacket. And it does. It really, still the same effect today, or the experience you have of, it's very touching and humbling, I suppose, to see it like that.
I think I rocked the Digi Tee.
Digi Map, yeah.
Yeah, and it had because I'm from Taupo, I was born in Taupo, it was a hometown. So the Huffer, the 3 circles were Lake Taupo, so that was kind of real cool for me, and that was my uni days back in University of Waikato.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice. That's that's getting into the early 2000s, though.
Yeah, that's dated me. There you go. You know my generation now.
So
but the 90s still on that.
90s, yeah.
Because as I said, I think it is an important thing. If talk a little bit about Huffer, I suppose the build up to 97 and what we were experienced from that gap from high school, during high school, and then to Huffer, and what was happening is really shaped the tone of voice, our values, our sense of the way we explore. It's all part of who we are, and that's such a golden time. If anybody out there that wasn't born, go and do some research on it. Because it is trending now, but you need to know your facts.
There are many sides to Steve Dunstan, and we were kind of thinking about where we should start this ep. Professional snowboarder, business owner, fashion pioneer, surfer. But I actually wanted to start with a little story we heard about you being a stunt double. And it goes back to, I think, 95. I think you were a professional snowboarder at the time, living in Queenstown or around that area. And Sprite decided to film a $35 million commercial nearby.
Wow.
And you got the call up.
Yeah. Well, to start, they were quite big titles. You say professional snowboarder, and I was sponsored, and I managed to make a living. I suppose to go back to lead up to Sprite, I from skateboarding in the 90s, and then snowboarding emerging as like the skateboarding of the mountain. There was this we were drawn to the mountains, and then got good at it, got sponsored, and then there was this in the 90s. There was a big movement of American pros coming down, and you get to meet them. They, when you're good, they want to meet the local riders. You show them the way. You make friends. You go to the bar, have some beers with them, and then some of them had quite a few beers, broke some windows and things. But it was crazy. But anyway, so there was a true professional snowboarder, American super pro, top 5, top 10 in the world at the time, Mike Rankwit. So he, I actually idolized him, and he influenced me in my snowboarding. And I got to meet him, my hero, in a social way. We got to ride with him. But then he was down here filming the Sprite commercial. And they were using his profile. So because I knew him, and with skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, you stand goofy or regular. I was goofy. Mike Rankwit was goofy. That's there's less of them. And I'd been riding with him, and I think there was a bit of an emergency meeting. I think in those big, film, 35 mil film. Did you say 35 million? Because I think
$35 million operation.
Are you saying 35 millimeter?
Millimeter. I think there was in the millions. I don't know if it was 30. I think the 35 mil is the old school. It's like what they used to film movies on.
Sometimes the research will go awry.
I thought, shit.
No, it was in the millions though. But
$5 million production in '95. It's a hell of a commercial.
That's what I was like. It's a fucking blockbuster movie back in those days.
Anyway, you got Mike Rankwit. He's like a global superhero pro coming down. Sprite wanted to use his profile. It was basically a Sprite commercial, like flying around the mountain, doing this thing, and he, does this run, comes down, and then this what seemed to be a learner crashes into a Sprite machine on the snow, and it's like, what did the best snowboarders in the world drink? Same as the every snowboarder or something. So anyway, they wanted to shoot his face, like sitting there by the guy that crashed in the machine, and that's called the first unit. So you have the first unit, second unit. Second unit's like action in a movie, and it was movie spec. There was like helicopters and shit,
$35 million worth. So it's
35 mil. It was 35 mil.
Big budget. Big budget.
Anyway, because it was costing millions a day, because that's what it cost back then. They wanted to film the first and the second unit on the same day, but Mike's face was the most important thing. So they panicked and then somehow tracked me down. I think I had a cell phone back then, and I got a call at like 6 in the morning. Who knows how I answered it? And they're like, how quick can you get to Cadrona for so-and-so $1,000 a day? And I was like, pretty bloody quick. And we used to like driving over the Crown Range. It was a gravel road, and it was like pretty much like a rally stage. So yeah, raced over there, turned up, didn't really know what was going on. Someone goes, right, there's your trailer to get changed, wardrobe. I was like, wardrobe? And then that's your helicopter. Now you just got to go and jump. That's going to fly up there. You're going to jump out of there and come flying down here. I was like, what the? Anyway, so yeah, he chose me to be his stunt double for like one of the best snowboarders in the world, which I couldn't actually comprehend at the time. But
had you done anything like that before? The jumping out of the helicopter?
I did it. I was part of a Toyota commercial. We had to jump over moving cars and things. But
that's pretty.
And I was in a Japanese feature film as a stuntman as well.
Light blue?
So, ice blue.
Ice blue.
Yeah,
Jeez, your notes are all over the place.
I'm off today.
I mean, it's silly
early
stuff.
Start.
But it sort of supported my lifestyle at the time. I had sponsorship. You'd do some of these jobs and ads and things, and that you say stuntman, it was like combine that with professional snowboarding, I suppose, and then you can make a bit of a hack at it and get, live the dream of doing a couple 100 days a year snowboarding. But yeah, what a crazy experience to be on a Sprite commercial.
So was the concern that Mike might damage his face in the second unit sequence, which would affect the first unit shot?
No. It was more so a budget thing because it was in the millions per day, maybe $1 million, I don't know. They couldn't afford to do another day, so they were like, well, we've got the whole crew here. We can have first and second unit working at the same time.
Got it.
So big trust from Mike, man. Shout out to Mike, like letting me do your stunts, because like he's, I don't know, it was cool. Oh yeah, I had to jump out of a helicopter into a chute, like in the Arcadia chutes above the main chairlift at Cadrona. And then another one was like set up a jump, do a backside 360 and land on the downslope, but they'd cut a hole, put this massive $35 million camera, millimeter camera under the snow with a Perspex sheet over it, and I had to do this 360 and land on the Perspex sheet and go bam. And every time I did it, they go, well, you better get it right, man. This sheet of Perspex is like $3,000 a pop or something.
Wow. How many takes for all of the sequences?
I was like 4 or 5 or something on that one. And then the helicopter was, that was the best because you had to jump out of the helicopter. The first time I did it, I was like, all right, man, the door's off the helicopter. They got the ski thing and they duct tape like some sponge on the top of the ski, and I've got the handle and a bit of rope, and I'm like, we've got my ass in the helicopter. We fly up over the chutes, looking down like 40 feet or something, going, what the Jesus? And there's a film crew in the chutes, like with this $35 million camera, big is like 4 people, and they go action, and the helicopter's moving around. There's wind, and oh man, it was pretty sketchy because I knew once they're rolling, it's costing like $1 million a minute or a second or something. It's like when you're filming on that $35 million film. So I just had to jump. I was like, oh my God, the pressure. Yeah. And then I just jumped. And because when you drop a big cliff or like a big drop like that, you got forward momentum. So you can, you go off, you land, you put your back foot down and you sort of power out of it. But I was just coming straight down, and first time, didn't really adjust for that, and then just cartwheeled down the chute off a cliff. And then they're like, right, okay, retake. It was like, Jesus. Yeah. Anyway, but the good thing was we did it. We had to shoot it from in the snow, in the helicopter, all these different angles. So I was in the helicopter all day, going up and down. And we had to, once I did the stunt, you had to ride down to the bottom where the helicopter was. So you get a free heli ski run. So I was just riding heli skiing all day, and getting paid for it. Yeah,
we've got a lot of ground to cover.
Okay.
I'm so looking forward to everywhere we're going to go to, but I wanted to actually start with a quote. So the way we do things, we sort of canvass your friends and colleagues and family to get sort of inside lines. And I got a quote from Alex Chapman, who's a friend of yours and a friend of the show.
Shut up.
And he said, Dunsto has this uncanny ability of making you feel like your conversation is the most important to him right now. And in that moment, you're the most important person to him. It's a skill a lot of people don't have and shows how enormous his heart is. He's fiercely loyal, and once you're in his corner, he'll back you for life. You wouldn't know he's created such a behemoth of a brand. We all have egos, but his might be the smallest I've ever seen. He's so low-key. His belief in mental health and determination to align not only the Huffer brand, but his own life with it, is a credit to his willingness to be vulnerable as a person. A lot of people and companies can learn a lot from him. As he would say, he's the fucking man.
Wow, man, jeez,
it's
makes me want to cry.
It's really nice words, but I just want to reflect on that, like the loyalty piece of that. Does that ring true? Like, is that really important to you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just built into me. And hey, I totally don't get it right either. So a disclaimer there, like, it is important, but if you believe in things like that, it doesn't mean you're always the master, But yeah, man, loyalty. Like, I don't really know how to answer that. It's amazing when you get a journalist to bloody say something about you. It's pretty well written. But yeah, your loyalty is really important. I think I don't really know what to say there, but I just appreciate, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to answer, really. I think it would be natural for everyone to be loyal to some degree. And when you're not, if you make a mistake, just recognize it and learn from it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a tricky one when you say something really nice to someone. Say, react to that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes me feel nice, and it's something nice to say.
Yeah.
Now, let's start building into the Huffer story, because
Yeah, sure.
we sort of touched on the snowboarding background. But what did life look like in those very foundational years, maybe before you started the business, and what was the inspiration for getting into it?
Yeah, I suppose maybe over the past 5 years, I tried to do some mind work. I'm sort of studying it over here to come back to here, but I think just being carefree and having, I suppose, separating your thinking from your mind. Your mind is like your intuition, your gut feeling. To me, your mind is your gut, right? Your mind's here. Your thinking's up here. When you go up here, it's like, ow, up in your head. It's like, it usually hurts when you think, or and that's, your thoughts they're out of control. They just come, and, you need to stand back from them and actually be in tune with your mind, your gut, right? So I think in the younger years, I suppose shout out to my dad, because he was, he was like Canterbury Boys High, Canterbury B rugby team or something, like really into rugby and all that stuff. And I started playing rugby, and he wanted, it seemed like he may have wanted me to go down a path that he could identify with. But, a big break was coming to Auckland, and him giving me the ability to make my own decisions. I suppose when I was like 14, coming to Auckland, from down country, and making the choice of where I went to school, and to not play rugby, to play basketball for a moment, and to just explore me and what I wanted to do. And it gave me some freedom to some degree, although there was always a bit of pressure, but being able to follow your spirit, I suppose, and that was part of my schooling. I really shout out to Selwyn College, I think, too, because that's, I lived in Grammar Zone, and I made the choice, not my dad. He would love for me to go to grammar, and nothing against grammar, but I think I made a choice based on who I thought I was and what would work for me, and I made a choice to go to Selwyn College at the time. And it was co-ed, it was mufti, it was you could skate at school, and the subjects you could study at the time were aligned with my interests. And I think by having the ability to let me follow my spirit at a young age helped shape the foundations of who I am, I think, if that makes sense.
It's a great piece. It's a great piece. JD, is that your dad?
JD.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't talked to him, have you?
No. Well, we couldn't get him. I thought about making a play for your mum on Instagram. Is it Val?
Yeah, Val.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to go down that line, but yeah, it's great. It's quite often we find that successful people, their success is rooted in their foundation. So to have that freedom of spirit at such a young age must have been incredibly empowering for someone making sense of the world as well. Yeah.
I mean, I think my dad at the time was like, oh God, bloody hell, what's he doing? I didn't go to uni because I felt like I wasn't ready to make a decision. There was nothing like coming at me that I really wanted, or a pathway through university. So I decided to go to Queenstown. Never been there, but that was through the gravitation to snowboarding through. So yeah, just being able to make those decisions. I suppose maybe a learning here for parenting. It support your children's spirit, and don't try and force them into a box. Not that I'm a shining example, but I think I really appreciate that from my past, and having that ability to live and follow my gut instinct and not get caught up and overthinking things.
And so through school, did you always have an eye on fashion? Like, did you witness that people were using what they wore to sort of explain themselves or present themselves? And like, did you remember looking back that was a fundamental part?
I haven't really thought about it until just right now, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think going to Selwyn College and all of a sudden at the age of 14, I think, going, right, I got to turn up to school and I can actually express myself with what I wear. And then go into this, it was quite an alternative school at the time. I think it still is to some degree. But all of a sudden you're thinking about how you project yourself, and like how, not that I think clothing makes you a certain person, but it's an ability to be yourself and be comfortable rather, being uniformed. So I think that was a massive impact to then help you also connect with people. And I think, if we think about how Huffer started, like that, providing the opportunity for someone to self-express and like give themselves their own identity to then be able to tell the story before you even meet someone of who you might be. So I think that's a learning that I got from that age.
Paint a little picture of Steve, age 15, 16, going to Selwyn College day to day. What are you rocking in school in?
Well, yeah. I remember dyeing my own shoes, like the poor man's version of a Van slip-on. Like, I remember 2 different colors for each shoes, and like I had bright colored, 90s vibe. Then we get into the Jordans. So if you could save up to get some Jordans, skate shoes, like following skate brands and understanding, the riders that influence you and how they live their lives and what they look like influence the story you might want to tell about you at the time through like silhouettes, colors, and brands and what they stood for and their values and what you subconsciously may have taken from brands and what they stood for. Skate brands were rebellious but it was like courageous, and so you'd put on a brand that was all over Thrasher magazine and you'd be like, yeah,
Thrasher magazine, that's the one I was trying to remember.
Thrasher and Transworld skateboarding and snowboarding. But yeah, it's just being able to like explore through clothing, I suppose, to help project your identity and express yourself was an important part of the makeup of the starter Huffer.
So 1st of April 1997, you were 21 and started with a fax machine and a cutting table. but before that, like if you just rewind, like what were the inspirations or what was the, like how did it start? Like that's when the company started, but how did it start before that?
Okay, so all the 90s that we talked about, the culture, the music, the people, the connection through those interests, the freedom to explore through skateboarding. Skateboarding was about meeting Aotea Square, in Auckland. No phones. You just go down there and meet up with people.
Yeah, meet at 3 o'clock, and you were there at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. You had a bus pass. You'd cruise around. So people coming together, and then exactly what we just talked about as well, like that sense of identity and expression, the exploration, which then transferred to snowboarding. Snowboarding emerged through the 90s, and again, being an outcast, like snowboarding was like kind of you're looked down on. It was like a very sort of conservative ski situation at the time, and they just thought we were rat bags, But I was just looking at. I didn't really care about skiers, but you just wanted to translate what you'd learn in skateboarding on the mountain. It was just this new amazing thing. So that sense of courageous exploration. So by going through that, by having an interest. So whatever you do in life, if you have an interest, then it attracts you to people, right? If you're outgoing and positive and open to meeting people through an interest can draw you in, right? So you play rugby, you go to the rugby club, you meet people at rugby. So whatever it may be, but then, so that happened. And then through that period in the 90s, I met Dan, who was an extremely good skateboarder. And I skateboarded as well, but I was doing more snowboarding at the time. And I really looked up to, I think he won the Nationals in 97 when we started. But the coming together of the two of us, and then, and all the community around it, and then the want to make something that we could own, or as a collective, that was helped sort of put a stamp on what we stood for. So it was like, skate, you got to think 97 when it did start. Yes, you could buy stuff in mail order from some of the skate supply stuff, and there was some sense of like availability, but not much. So we made our own stuff to help give us our identity for what we stood for, what we really believed in, like that was our life, it was a lifestyle. And to be able to have a tangible thing a flag you could fly, essentially, to shout out to the world that I represent this, it was just what it was all about, really.
Did you start by making stuff for the two of you, or did you have a little kind of crew and you two just happened to be the quote unquote the leaders of the gang, that kind of?
Oh yeah, well, no, there is a bit more to it. Dan was studying like a fashion course at AUT, and he decided to want to make outerwear as a challenge, like snowboard outerwear. So we started with jackets, like waterproof, breathable jackets for snowboarding. So we wanted to go to the mountains, look like skateboarders, but keep warm and dry. So, he started because he wanted to challenge himself on making something that was, like harder than a t-shirt. And it was a good challenge. And because I snowboarded, we got together and then co-created, because I snowboarded with him, I came in and, it got helped advise on, some of the functionality features from, spending all the time in the snow. And then it was just like, well, what are we doing? Let's just put everything together and like, we should make this like stuff AUT. Let's make it a business, or more than a business, but a brand, sorry. A business came from it, that brand was everything. So that's how it emerged through the trenches of the streets, of skateboarding, the music, the culture, the people, and how we interacted, and then the emergence of snowboarding and the want to make some outerwear, and we did.
And is that how word spread? Because bear in mind, this is 97, so this is pre-social media.
Yeah.
This is kind of infancy of internet and internet marketing. So is it word of mouth? Is it those mags that you were talking about? Like, is there a buzz on the scene of like, where'd you get that jacket from?
Yeah, well, you think skateboarding and snowboarding, you were influenced. Yeah, magazines were a thing. But the amount of content you saw, you'd study. I remember looking at snowboard magazines and just like, you'd look at one photo for like hours, just go, wow. But now, you're on TikTok, blah, 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 blah. So everything's getting spat at you, and you sort of look past some of the important aspects, like how often do you look at a still image these days? Like everything's moving, which is cool. But, so you're hugely influenced. The magazines had massive influence, and actually just being there, like if you snowboard at a skate park, if you went to a skate park, you turn up and there's someone ripping, and you got to think there's no social media, nothing. There's some skate vids that you had to go to the skate store to watch because you couldn't afford to buy them. You see that in person, and it has massive impact on you. I think the people, all our friends were really good at it. So we didn't have this marketing plan like, we'll go and buy these pro riders, and we're just like, hey man, you want to wear some of this and that? And we naturally formed a team because the people we knew were excited to wear it and to potentially, show their identity of who they are and what they stood for. And, you think about values and things that we didn't, I've only probably written down our company values like recently, but they're built in, but getting them out is hard. But so subconsciously we had values and people gravitated because they could feel it and they could see it.
When you reflect on those early months or years, how long was it until you realized you had something special and you were like, shit, things are starting to come together here, like we're starting to build a bit of momentum?
Oh, before we started, like straight away. Just making some samples and just the excitement of having the ability to produce something that stood for what we're living, and just seeing it. And then I remember like we managed to somehow put a sample range together. Then I jumped in the car and went around the country to skate in snow stores to go and convince them, and to sell our product. But we used our profiles in the industry. It was like, oh, Steve and Dan, and we know them through the industry. They're good at what they do, and so we got our foot in the door. And then that was our opportunity. Then we had to follow up. But yeah, just that moment of going on the road with these physical things that stood for everything that we'd experienced through the 90s. That was it, man.
So in those early days, you're not making a lot of money. Any money you do make, you're investing back into the company. You're working weekends.
Oh, man.
Was there a time when you were working in a retail store and they were selling Huffer gear and you'd like watch people come in and buy stuff as you were working as a retail worker?
Yeah. So, so we did get that sample range created. We did sell it in. I think we got 6 or 7 stockists, like Cheapskates, you probably recognize that name. They were around at the time, and some other sort of independent snow and skate stores. And then, so we did that, and we thought we were really smart. We're like, wow. And we managed to actually we got orders, and we made it. We we actually made it. We're cutting the fabric. Dan was sewing some of the samples up. We just hustled to try and get it over the line. So we delivered it, and then we're like, woo, we got that done. And Dan went over to the States to go skating. And then I went to Queenstown. I was like, I'll move to Queenstown. I'll do another season. There you go, of course. And then, I worked in part-time in a snowboard store that just actually celebrated 30 years a couple of weeks ago. Quest, which was called BOA, Board of Authority. Went down there and worked part-time and snowboarded. And they stocked our product. And I sold it. And it was amazing. And the Japanese used to come in the off season. It was pretty cool. They do now, but they used to come in clans, like just hundreds of them. And they're so passionate, like so into it. They just come in and live in these like backpackers and just snowboard every day. But they'll come in and they wanted a piece of it because there was, in the small town of Queenstown, the Wanaka area, there was a few of us riding, and that we influenced them. Plus, it was from New Zealand, and that's where the New Zealand part comes in. But yes, just seeing the excitement and selling it out in front of me, like I was actually selling it. It was like, that was a cool experience. That was really, really cool.
Are you slipping in like, oh, by the way, guys, I actually made this as you're completing the transaction?
Nah.
So are you like genuinely, are you flying under the radar a little bit kind of as the brand is growing, or are people aware that
I think
that you and Dan are behind this?
We did our talking by living the lifestyle, I suppose. Like we did our talking on the mountain or skating or, and just living the culture. We didn't have to say anything. It was just like, we are part of it and we are the creators, but you just do it by living it, You don't have to say it.
One of the articles I read had a line which I wanted to talk about, and I'm not sure where in the journey, how many years in this was, but it was when the Huffer Puffer came out, and the first line of it sold 400 units, and then the next order was for 2,500, and it seemed like this was like a big leap of faith. You really went for it. Was that a really courageous move?
Yeah, it was. That's a big jump in timeline, but I think so. We did start with to back up to give that point some background, I suppose. We did start out making snowboard outerwear, and then we moved to Queenstown, Dan went to America, and we came back and go, holy smokes, something's happening here. Like our PO box was full of bills, and we had to pay them, and they were like, oh, what are we doing? Are we going to keep going? Then we made a summer range, and it was like predominantly skate clothing to some degree, and then we grew, went through. We just keep persevering. Yes, we didn't pay ourselves, and we worked other jobs, and it didn't matter. We're just in it, and it grew and grew and grew. And yes, the Huffer Puffer, or the Huffer down jacket, came very early in the season. I think it was the second winter we made our first, because we were sitting around a studio. It was so freaking cold, and we're like, oh, we better make a warm jacket as well. Not that snowboard jackets are not, but we wanted a really cozy jacket, so we made a puffer jacket. And then, I suppose over those years, it was always part of our ranges and collections, and it grew to to those levels that you're talking about in those numbers. But there was a point in the business where it was like, what are we really doing here? We boosted. Sort of after playing around, well, not playing around, but like building the brand organically, it was time to develop some business sustainability to some degree, and to like the challenge of like, coming from that really core collective or community or subculture, and the challenges of going out was into a bigger world was it's quite hard, because unfortunately, as great as that world was, it could be quite closed-minded, If you skateboarding is everything else sucked, So that was a challenge. But once we negotiated our way to grow through that, rather than change, we grew, which was hard, but we lived our values to get through it. Then it was like, right, what can we really do? And then, there was, with the growth, there was, more people in the business that had some experience. I suppose the biggest learning, was like, you're as good as you are, and to grow, and if you want to grow, you need to grow with people that have different skills. So we had some great people come in that had the confidence to build a plan around, boosting, like some of those numbers you're talking about. and it's boosted beyond what you talked about. But there was a point. I think it was maybe around sort of the 2013, 14 sort of era, and then we got serious about that category. As you see, you can see Huffer Puffers everywhere, right? In a good way.
Totally.
Totally. One today. I'm off my game today. That timeline is way out of whack. So I'm gonna take us back. We might even edit that part later on.
Good.
But the marketing side of it, because this is fascinating. There'll be listeners listening who have only grown up with the internet and they know social media and things. But this time, like before YouTube, there was the snowboard magazine, right? And if you got ads and if you got your marketing in there, you're all right. But there were big gaps. There might only be a few editions a year. So the rest of it, you had to start sort of getting creative. And then you created the Huffer House of Horrors.
Oh, the Huffer House of Horrors, yeah. We did. Before the Huffer House of Horrors, we actually did the Huffer World Tour of New Zealand. And that was essentially a skate tour. We had the most amazing skateboard team of these, like the best in the country. It was amazing. We sponsored them, and we got a camper van and a couple other vehicles, and we, I think we made like handmade posters that we sent out to the skate stores. So we went to Whakatane, Rotorua, Taupo, Palmerston North, Wellington. We just cruised around and turned up to these skate parks because, the American skate teams had started coming down. And we're like, you know what? We're as good as them, if not better. Let's go. And we, stick it up a camper van, and it was, you can imagine it was pretty chaotic, but I had to drive the camper. But wow, it was nuts. But like hometown heroes turning up to these towns and just seeing the excitement, like actually having the motivation to do that. And it was cool because we could take away our skaters and just go skate some cool stuff. But then every single town showed up, and it was like, it was such a cool thing. And that just, we didn't even think about it. It just felt natural to want to explore that. And then that translated to later on the Huffer House of Horrors. So within snowboarding, it was like, I think the internet had started to kick into some, I think broadband was the new thing, and YouTube had just come about. And I was like, imagine if we could film our snow team and like somehow broadcast it within a day or two, so people get the sense of like, I was there. Because like you think about, early internet, and very early, if not much social media, people want to know what's happening in the scene. So it was like, it was a sense of like, it's alive. So we made these like episodes. We got a house, put our team in the house, and then gave ourselves the challenge to make 3 episodes over 10 days. It sounds so dumb now, but at the time it was quite groundbreaking and a lot of fun, and so hard, man. Editing videos back then, it was just like, well, now you can do it on your phone, like 5 seconds, like put on TikTok. But now, it took like, we'd just stay up all night editing and try and get these episodes and try and upload them into YouTube. And then,
were you doing the editing?
No, we'd have a filmer and an editor, but it was so clunky back then. I remember he didn't even sleep, and I'm like, come on, we're off next place, let's go. So it was cool getting people together. But then, we had parties around it, so we'd go to Queenstown, and then P Money came down, we had a party at like Subculture, and like, so we'd turn it into like a bit of a festival and an event. So but I suppose the biggest part of it was just trying to broadcast and have an open door policy to some degree. The skate tours was like, everybody come along, and Huffer House of Horrors, come to the party, come and be part of it, and like come ride with us, and just try and beyond what was the standard magazines, and like what could we do on a tactile, real level in the community.
So I guess a way of marketing is you're sponsoring athletes, right? You want people to see someone on the slopes who's amazing wearing your gear.
Yeah.
And one of the names that popped up was Hayley Holt. You guys sponsored Hayley Holt. Was she in that House of Horrors?
Oh man, yeah. Wow. She's amazing. Wow, what a snowboarder. And she was. She was awesome. We sponsored her, and she was so good to have on the team. Like, just dominated, just so.
Did you know that she was a top dancer at that point as well?
Yeah, I did know that.
It's such a crazy combo, by the way, of snowboarder / ballroom dancer.
Not really. It actually works. I mean, she's got the like confidence, and like she's not scared. But then you put the finesse of dancing, and if you look at skateboarding and snowboarding, it's all very gymnastical, if there's such a word. But it's the art of flight. So I could see how they would play into her hands. Very controlled.
Yeah.
But then very confident. Like she was dropping big handrails going downstairs, and like, oh man, She was awesome.
Were you quite selective of who? Obviously, you were selective, but how did you choose which snowboarders and athletes to go after?
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about athletes. That was never a word for us back then. I think Red Bull made that a thing. I think Red Bull athletes, action sports, and they were riders or team or never athletes. But they were again, just it was about a style as well because it's subjective, and I suppose the flavor of who we were. We're progressive freestyle snowboard, so we probably wouldn't go and sponsor like a racer that goes through the gates. So then there was a certain style of how you did it, how you carried yourself, and there was no right or wrong. It was just a flavor that And Hayley had a really good style, and like just appreciated her like courageous courage of just being able to do anything, and that just identified with us, along with our other amazing team riders that we had. So yeah, and then we knew, you just went on the mountain, went riding with people, and you're like, in the magazines, and then you approach people and talk, and yeah, it was very organic. We didn't sit down and like write a plan.
To use your words, I guess that's the gut thinking versus the head thinking, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
You spoke about you didn't have your values maybe articulated as a mission statement on the wall.
Yeah.
But you had a sense and you knew what would align with what you wanted to do through those people.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Which is a real skill.
Yeah. Well, when you're living it in the moment, it's we developed a collective, I suppose, more so than
That's a great word.
Yeah.
Collective is such a good word in terms of describing.
Sounds better than athlete. Because and it's subjective. It's an art form to me. Like, just to sidetrack a little bit, seeing what's happening in snowboarding now. I went through the Olympics, and there's NZ Sports, whatever, support the athletes through their journey to the Olympics. And it seems like snowboarding has been sucked up by that, and people get trapped in that bubble, and they lose their a coach goes, you need to learn this trick, you got to go and do it, you got to hike it, you got to go up and down this jump and practice. And they get extremely good, but they lose their expression. But there's a movement of some of those athletes going back to being a collective and doing it, going, you know what, I'm not going down the competition route, I'm going to go down a route of expression and create and influence people into why snowboarding is good and make it more accessible. And that's pretty cool.
Is that something that you're actively getting behind, or does it happen organically?
No, we were right behind it. Like, I suppose now reigniting snow, because it left for a moment. The industry changed, and we celebrated 25 years, as I said, and we reignited our old original first range, which is outerwear. And now we're continuing with it because I think it's an important story to tell. The people we're getting behind again and rebuilding that collective is like the people that are going on that journey. And it's so cool to support them because they feel left out. Because shout out to Mitchie Darvin, who's like he went Junior Olympics, and then he was on that program, and he bounced out of it because he didn't enjoy it, and there was so much pressure. He's just like waiting to express himself and go and do creative projects, and like, you're a guy, this is awesome. So instead of trying, we could go to and like try and jump on the Olympians and in respect to them, it's not a bad thing, but I just like the spirit of like, again, and someone like Mitchie, he's following his gut, and he's doing what he feels is right, and that will take him on his journey. Who knows where he'll go? But yeah, the Olympic journey is very different, and it's very foreign to why we started snowboarding. And I'm not against it. I watch it, and it's amazing, and it's really progressed snowboarding. But yeah, it's quite a weird thing. It's
an interesting thing because surfing's probably going through that as well, with it being included in the Olympics too. You're right. It's an interesting thing when movements sort of become funneled into a spectator kind of a lens to watch it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny relationship, like especially the surfing. You're like, you go, does it suit? But it's quite cool to watch, and you get into it. But it's interesting.
To follow the storyline, so about 5 years after you've launched, you make these what do you call them, digi-tees with the
Digimat?
Digimat, with the I Heart New Zealand, I Huff New Zealand. And before, so we'll get to the Orlando Bloom thing, but before that, these were hot property, right? Like everyone wanted them. They were the shirt that you wanted to wear, and you were already trying to sort of limit the reach of them because it was getting too big.
So that's actually, it's a good backstory to that too, because as we talked about, like growing outside of our tight-knit community of quite close-minded at times people, it was hard. We didn't want to turn our back on them, but I think one thing that from the beginning and becoming, like immersing ourselves in a culture which was really, created by American culture, skating and snowboarding. It's very American driven and led by the Americans. New Zealand was always a part of what we did. And I think if you were to, if someone was giving you business advice, it's like mimic what they're doing and, do what they're doing and follow the leaders. But we're like, New Zealand from day one had always been part of, it was physically on our products. Like we had little mini maps and even our main logo had a New Zealand map on it. So that was, it was quite trailblazing because there were other New Zealand skate companies and they were mimicking, but we had the confidence to put New Zealand part of it as part of projecting who we were. And that felt right. And then I think that was seen as leadership. And then that's when there was interest outside of this community because we stood up for what we believed in and where we're from at a time when I think maybe New Zealand was a bit suppressed. And we were like, you know what, this is who we are. Again, leading from our gut, not overthinking it. And then, so we basically put New Zealand on a t-shirt. And because it was in some of our labeling, like New Zealand maps and NZ and then we basically put it on a t-shirt. And at the time, you say that now, you go, oh man, there's some weird tourist tee or something. But I remember the Digimap t-shirt you're talking about. I was at Grey Lynn at some party wearing a t-shirt, rolling in and going, man, this is like the coolest t-shirt. But now, wearing it now, it's like, oh yeah, okay. Been down to the tourist shop. But that's because, without claiming it, I feel like we were like the only ones to do it, or the first to do it. And like, it was a big moment in our culture, I reckon, to really celebrate who we are and where we're from. We obviously had, New Zealand sports and the All Blacks and things like that, but especially in our culture, to really, in street culture and fashion, to really back, when I say typically you'd mimic an American culture, to stand up as Kiwis or New Zealanders or whatever you want to call it, that was quite a movement, and that's what helped create this massive groundswell of interest from the outside world of this bubble to wanting to get product. So,
do you remember the actual design process? Like, was that you? Like, who came up with the idea? Or was it like a group think, or was it like?
I don't. Just sort of. I actually don't even know. Like, I suppose t-shirt prints are part of skate culture, and you always, you're always releasing new prints, and it just felt right because New Zealand was always part of our visual identity since day one. Not to the point of a t-shirt print, but it just somehow snuck up on a t-shirt and just felt good.
So then 2003 comes along, Lord of the Rings premiere in Wellington. Was it like 200,000 people lining the streets?
Yeah. Wow.
And Orlando Bloom, who's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, movie star in the world at that point, wears your shirt. And you get a message from someone saying, mate, you might need to check this out.
It's basically what happened. But so we got this groundswell of everybody wanted that t-shirt, so it's in hot demand, right? And we're limiting the supply. We're going, wow, we're growing outside the bubble. We're going to protect the bubble. We want to grow, but we want to control it. So that was happening, right? And then, this 2003 event rolls up, biggest thing in Wellington. And then, I was just at work or something. I think it was on a Wednesday or something. I can't remember, but someone says, you got to check this out. So Orlando rolled up in the red carpet wearing, the I Huffer t-shirt. So we put our logo upside down to resemble a heart. I love New Zealand. Rip off of the, the I Love New York t-shirt to some degree. And I think that's just really quite representative of what was happening. Because it was limited, and the timing and the sentiment, everybody wanted to get that t-shirt, and that was the t-shirt to have, right? And I think the story goes, and I may not be right, and someone can correct me, but they're wrapping the show, Lord of the Rings, and then I believe I think this, I don't know. Well, it sounds good, but the wardrobe person that had a relationship with Orlando was, oh well, Orlando, I'm not going to see you every day and dress you, but I'm going to get you a gift, and it's going to get you that t-shirt because that's the hottest t-shirt in the country right now. It's the coolest t-shirt, and the message on it's perfect. Have the t-shirt. So he goes, oh, cool, I'll wear it on the red carpet. And then, because he had a suit blazer, which wasn't really our style at the time, with a T-shirt underneath, a bit Miami Vice, but he put his chest out and basically say to the crowd, I love New Zealand, and point at the T-shirt, and then the crowd would love the fact that Orlando loves New Zealand. And then, so he kept doing it. So all the media photos are him pointing at our logo, basically, just going, woo. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, people pay a lot of money for those events to try and happen, but we just did it with our head down, and it was just a result of like a situation that was going on. So yeah, I don't like to claim that one but it is a milestone to some degree, because what happened next was a really important part of the story, I suppose. The media attention came to us, I suppose. He was on the front page of the New Zealand Herald, and there's not much media around at that time, so everything's very focused. So the whole world saw it because everybody read the paper back then. And then so they come to us, the media comes to us, and like, wow, this amazing opportunity. What are you going to do? We're like, I didn't think. So this is coming back to your gut again. I didn't have to think. I was like, well, we're not going to make that, because we're already, staying true to who we were and protecting our, loyal supporters. And we don't want to over commercialize this opportunity and jump on the bandwagon, because we actually got a, I don't know how valid it was, but we got an inquiry to buy a container load for Germany or something. It was like, what the?
What's a container load? How many shirts are in a container load?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. What a weird order. So I mean, and that was a big thing. Then we ended up. I think I was on the front page of the Herald the next day, sitting there outside our office, going, oh yeah. Huffer declines the opportunity to make it, and we said no, we're not going to make that, and it became a main story. Like I think it ended up in the news as well. I think there was student radios celebrating, and they didn't sell out, woohoo! And then I think on Talkback, I think maybe even Paul Holmes or something, he's like, what is this New Zealand opportunity turned down or something? So how stories become a story for a few hours in the media. That was the story, and then but what it did, it communicated to the mainstream audience of New Zealand that how we make decisions. It gave them a look into our business to get them to understand a sense of values that we had. So yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things that happens, right?
It's a good problem to have, right? There's two situations: you make the shirt and you make shitloads of money, or you don't do anything and you're the same, but you've got this sort of good public goodwill that comes on board. I mean, any company would love that situation, I feel like. A Hollywood star promoting a thing, but you've stuck strong to your morals and your beliefs and your conviction. And long run, like looking back now, like you must think it wasn't a hard decision, but it was a genius decision. I don't know how many others.
It wasn't even a decision. It just happened. Like, and that's a good thing. If you can tune into that, then that's good. And then, and what happened from that was this massive groundswell of interest for the brand rather than the T-shirt, which is genius.
Yeah.
It was celebrated. And then people, we saw the next 3 or 4 years just boom, put us on the map. And the right tone too,
Just as a quick interlude, fast forward about 15 years and I might have the timeline wrong. Post Malone puts a shot on his Instagram in a bright yellow.
Yep, bright yellow, super down.
Huffer.
Yep.
Did those two instances kind of compare in terms of the reaction? Or is the Orlando Bloom light years ahead of where Post Malone was? Like
Post Malone, so he just put on he had a Rolls Royce, one of the SUV Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
had the.
I feel like that's a little bit out of reach of most people.
No, but it had yellow interior,
right?
So he used that jacket to create a interesting photo with the yellow Rolls Royce leather and his yellow jacket. Anyway, that happened, but I mean that was. Yeah, that stuff doesn't have the impact that what happened back then. Like that stuff happens now all the time, and like would celebrate that and go, yeah, cool. But I think, like real, like
hysteria, is that the right term for the Orlando Bloom?
Whereas that's just a show off reel, Whereas if you can create an opportunity to live your values through an event, then I think you can make more impact, Whereas like, some cool dude just wore our stuff and that's cool and that's gonna. I think that's wearing thin. Like these days, especially, I think people are seeing through all that. I mean, we did give him a jacket as a gift when he came to New Zealand. through the Universal Music House. Just drop off a gift, handwritten note, hey man, have a good time. And then, it eventuated and he wore something that was cool. But so it's a different story to Orlando, but there's a lot of brands that are paying for that, like a lot of money. Well, were. But I think people see through that, and what's it really doing? This is show off reel. Where's the grit? Where's the depth? And where's the influence of like, why am I attracted to this brand? Where's the realness? I think you'll see over the next few years that stuff will just sort of fizzle away to some degree.
So as the snowball continues to build, after 2003, things are going great. You make some wins off the back of that decision. And I want to take you to 2010 because I've heard you describe it, that 2010 to 12 period as really difficult years. And I think it was in conjunction with trying to get into the US market and your experiences there.
Yeah.
Was that the hardest time? And was it all moving in a direction and then you hit that sort of speed bump?
Yeah. I mean, there's many challenging, hard times along the way. But I suppose we had that groundswell of interest, and we became a household name to some degree. I think Kevin Roberts did a book called The Love Marks, and
I remember that. I studied that at uni.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he put us down. I think we're in the book, or we're an official love mark, which, it was cool. We're a love brand. And then that was true. Like, people supported it, and we got to the business to a point, whereas I suppose we didn't know what's next. We're like, where do we go from here? Like, and I suppose that was, we started listening to others for direction. This is when we started thinking, over the mind.
Yeah.
And not well lost, but it was, it was a challenging period. We were successful. It seemed like every other brand wanted to work with us, and it was cool and meeting all these people. And I think we started even doing New Zealand Fashion Week and doing these like shows that turned into parties, and it was all cool. But then it was like we started taking lead from others about our direction, and one of them was to go to the US, and so we went, okay, good idea. And then we put the work in, did mahi, went up to the US a few times, did the research, met people, built a range, and got out there successfully. I've been up in Las Vegas. We'd partnered with Vice magazine, did a party at one of the hotels. They managed to get it sponsored, so it was like, I think we did an ad in Vice, and then they're like, okay, you're in the crew, we'll get some big other sponsors, and we'll do a massive party. And then I was like, wow, we're doing a Vice party, and it was crazy. We're doing some of the right stuff. Like, I think, we knew how to connect at that level and meet the right people to some degree, but then the execution of the business was the hard bit. I suppose we managed to take orders at the trade show, and then the partner that wanted to drag us into that pulled out. We're like, we got a little taste of the US, and we're like, ooh, it's quite exciting, but it's such a big beast. And then we tried to replace the resource that was that partner, that was going to be our partner just for the US, and we kept going and delivered late and struggled. Then the thing called the GFC hit, and we're at the bottom of the pile, man. We're shipping to these cool stores in New York and LA and San Diego, and like, hey, where's the money? It's like, dude, you're long gone, man. All the stores got wiped out. Like, the GFC was more extreme in the US than it was here. Like, the lows were lower, and we not only the financial side of it, but also our focus was spread so wide. We're still, a New Zealand business was so important to us. Some production things were changing. All these big, quite serious things were going on, and it was just, our focus was so wide, and it just got really hard. We're just spread too thin.
How close were you to losing it all?
Pretty close. Really close. And it's, wow. It's funny. It's like when you can worry about things that haven't happened, right? You can go, oh, this could happen, or that. But when it's actually happening, I don't know if this is right, but when it's actually happening, you somehow have it's sort of easier to get through. I mean, it was hard, but just the stress and the worry, if you worry about things that haven't happened, but when you're actually in it, there can always be a way, and it was really hard. And when it's real, it kicks in, and you do everything you can to get through. And that was big. It took years. to rebuild and recover, and then that's part of the next sort of step in the journey, I suppose.
We're going to talk a bit about your connection to mental health down the line, but reflecting on that period, I don't mean to drudge up the worst period of your life, but how was your mental health? Like, how did you cope through that time?
Support from friends and family, and I had some very kind people in my life that have helped out. I'm not sure of the motivation, but maybe for the fact that to not see an iconic New Zealand brand go down like that. Maybe, but through maybe some loyalties, or it was amazing. Like, once you're vulnerable and you put it out and it's actually really happening. I think I've got a bit of a theory in life, but don't ask, don't get, politely. Hey, we're fucked. Can you help, please? But you can hold it in and just hide it, but no one's going to help. So you got to communicate and be vulnerable to some degree.
Was it difficult for you to show those vulnerabilities in a business sense or in a personal sense, or if you can separate the two?
Yeah, it was hard. It was weird. Through that period, I slept really well because you could go away from it. So when it was really stressful and hard, you just go to sleep and everything was good, and then wake up and be rested and get into it. But that was a really weird thing. I had really good sleeps, but I think I was just hiding from the stress. I think I don't know. Just getting support from people really helped, and just talking to people, communicating, connecting, all the simple stuff just helped you build the courage to push through.
So is it fair to say the community you had built helped Huffer survive, the support of those around you?
Yeah, in so many ways, from our end customer all the way through to mentors, people in the business, stakeholders. That was, they turned up.
The next part in my notes has the beginning of a 10-year salvage mission. Because after this, you've hit rock bottom.
Yes.
You're wondering whether you're going to be able to survive. You do, and then you're slowly building up again.
Yes.
So what can you talk us through that period? Like, what's the strategic thinking of getting back on your feet?
Well, it was cleaning things up. As I mentioned, we're very wide, so it was time to get focused. Dan, who had started the company with, had left through that period, and no right or wrong, but I think it was time for a singular leadership with brand and what we're doing. And as I think at the time, in the lead up to those events of just expansion, GFC, and tough times, and maybe listening to others for advice, it was like time to come back internal and take a singular direction. It could have been anyone, but a direction was needed. And at the time, I was the sole director, and I was like, "This is what we're doing." And we just cleaned. It was cleaning up, clean the yard. We had to pull out of the US. We had to self stock, and we were just doing these sales. I was like, "Man, it's going to kill the brand," and it just showed how resilient the brand really was. Like, we just had to clear stuff and move out and improve things, and just go on a mission. And then we found our way, and then, by having again, either right or wrong, by having a singular direction for the brand, gave us the ability to create a pathway so that we could go down and execute, and then bring people along for the journey as well. So
was part of that like a national consolidation and focusing here in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Yes.
Awesome.
Part of that was also having a closer connection with our customer. We opened a retail store, our first Huffer store, which was mind-blowing. Again, taking me back to that Queenstown moment when we were right there with the customer and seeing it and feeling it. And I remember, we had a store in Newmarket in Nuffield Street. We've moved with a Newmarket since, but that was a time when I think the brand was like maybe 14, 15 years old, and there was these schoolgirls coming in, and they were like, "Oh my God," and you could just see them. We had new campaign imagery on the walls, and there was their product, and I was just like, wow, you guys weren't even born when we'd started. So there was a moment there when I was like, wow, we've got through that hard period. Now we've survived a generation, and there was this new engaged, they couldn't even fit the clothes, but they aspired to it. They were like, I was like, wow, I could see this by having a store. I was in the store, I could see that happening, and it was like that was a moment where intergeneration. Well, we became intergenerational to some degree. We'd survived a generation. And then from there on in, we just keep building our strength. Turn the down jackets from 400 to 2,000. And then build that sustainability. It wasn't about making money. It was about building. I mean, it is part of it because that's, you need to provide. But it was about sustainability of the business to provide for, the growing part of it with retail and more people and layers. And there was a responsibility. And then to further ourselves and to improve our products, and it was cool. We started building momentum through the O's. Is that what we call it?
Yeah, the naughties.
Yeah.
It sounds to me as well like the creation of those physical spaces was really healing in terms of that regeneration and physically bringing people together. Yep. And is that where Free Coffee Fridays and those sort of concepts started to take flight?
Yeah. So retail. Important because if you go to the sort of the business side of it, it changed our cash flow because you're getting on a wholesale level where you sell to the old cheapskates or whatever, you ship it, they pay, but we had this cash flow, and then it changed the dynamic of our business on a business commercial sense. But it also gave the opportunity for people to come and hang out and be close to our brand. So we had these stores and people were gravitating to the stores, and it came back to. Sorry to go way back, but back to the 90s where I used to go and hang out in a skate store and dream about all the boards on the wall and watch the skate videos. And that was like an important role in the culture of skateboarding, but I was seeing that happening within our retail. And then, so I think our second retail store was in our office on Queen Street in Grays Ave there. We had this old 1930s theatre, and then we had the space at the front. We could sort of have this sort of underground shop. And then we did, and then we knew someone that had a coffee machine. They go, we should put a coffee machine there so you can have coffee. And I was like, oh, should we invite some people down on a Friday on the way to work, come get a coffee and try and practice my skills? And then it just naturally, we go, this is cool. People coming into our office, our retail store to see and be part of it. So it just organically grew and built. And so although, there was an era of Free Coffee Friday that we had, like Lord came down to make pancakes and made pancakes, and we had music showcases and all these things. It turned into, Free Coffee Friday was the label, but what it represented is open door policy. Like, haere mai, everybody come on in, hang out. Coffee's free. We're not, it was about connecting and people coming together. We used our retail to do it, which has shaped some of the, it's shaped where we are today with our Huffer House in Britomart, which will...
Coffee plays a big part in your life, right?
Yeah, it's addictive.
But not only as a drink itself, but also, I guess, as a concept, because we throw that around so much. Hey, let's go and have a coffee. It's code for let's go and connect and catch up. Is that an important part of your personal makeup and how you conduct yourself?
Yeah, I think, as you say, the cup's a conversation. Like, how long does it take to drink a coffee? You've the 8 minutes, or it's enough to see how someone's going, check in, or just have a basic connection. You might just talk shit the whole time, but that's still important. Coffee.
Is that why you took us for a coffee before we started recording?
See what I did? Yeah.
Gets it.
Chill the nerves down, get to know you guys.
Yeah.
The coffee. Yeah, it's bigger than coffee. Yeah, and it always has been. It's just an excuse to stop. Like we still serve coffee in a retail store in Britomart in Auckland here, but the idea is to get people to stop in the store for over 8 minutes so you can get to know them, say hi, and maybe take something away from our retail. Not necessarily buying something that could come later, but it's just like soak it in, meet someone, chat to someone else. Because a lot of socializing. A lot of it happens in bars, which is all good. It's good to have a couple of beers for sure, but it's also good to do it in an environment. It's those Free Coffee Fridays felt like you're at a bar, but it was Friday morning. It was cool. It was buzzing, man. You're bouncing off people and like, oh hey, over here. And so just that sense of community building and connection and is awesome.
How many coffees are you rocking a day, just out of curiosity?
Oh, probably about 2 to 3.
Yeah,
depends. I got my pushes. I go to the Piha store. I got a little pad out there, and then Pete there just gives you another one before you you know, had your first one. You're, oh man, there's some good baristas around that do that. They know how to get you hooked.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I've now settled on 2 and then
Yeah.
a decaf if anything.
Yeah.
Anything after that.
Now you gotta be careful. It can build anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen gets a bit silly after
I do.
your
I
second long
I
black.
get a bit silly after my That's right.
Yeah. Don't be scared to get a decaf.
Yeah, I've just made my peace with that. Literally in the last 3 weeks, that a decaf is actually okay. I was like firmly, I can't get a decaf. But no,
Well,
decaf's all good.
like a zero beer, right?
Yeah, same concept.
Yeah, you can. It just slows things down. Like I think you've got something to do, and then which helps create the conversation. It's a vehicle and a tool to help people connect.
So the salvage mission was successful. The snowball is building back up again. Huffer celebrated 25 years last year.
Yes,
which is so amazing. Like, I'm so stoked that we get to share this story with you because it's such a Kiwi success story with its trials and tribulations and its success at the other end.
yes.
But I know that you took some time in the last few years to really define what Huffer is.
Yeah.
And you went on a bit of a personal journey. Can you talk to us about what you found?
Yeah. I suppose, with that growth, when we took in retail and more retail, more opportunities for people to come and hang out, and then, more sustainability in our business, came layers and more people. And, once you open a few stores, you have part-timers and managers, and then you have a retail manager. And so there was more people involved in our business. And, the values and the tone of voice that we intuitively lived. And in the early days, we just knew what to do. We knew to do a skate tour. We didn't have to write it down. We didn't have to draw it from our strategic plan. It was just that's what you do. But when there's more people, you need to be able to communicate some of the core fundamentals of your mission and your vision and your values. And so it was about we decided that it was time to do that and to actually redefine the DNA, because a lot of it, I suppose being the longest standing member, a lot of it was not that it's all about me at all, but a lot of it was stuck in me. I knew it, and if you're around someone a long time, I think it was like 3 or 4 of us in the office, we were skating around, we all knew what to do. But when there's like 30 and then retail, and then there's a lot of people. So it's like, how can we build the tools to give them the opportunity to live Huffer, because they want to. They've signed up. They want to work with us and be part of it. So yeah, we pulled the brand to bits. It was like went on a 3 to 4 months journey to redefine and just really pull it to bits. It was so emotional. It was like all the stories. Like it's like this for 3 months, like sitting here intensely talking about the brand, the history, and with imagery and garments and stories and writing things down, and like had a breakout room and then we put it back together with some really clever people that didn't really dictate what we were about, but they had really good skills in being able to put what was the essence of who we actually were into a really helpful format to then use to communicate and live by. And yeah, that was amazing. That was sort of in 2019, just pre-pandemic actually. And part of that on that journey was, I suppose through that growth period of getting out away from the hard period, we didn't lose. I think we lost sight of where we're from a bit. We're just caught up in the busyness. We're just doing what we needed to do, because like that place over there was scary, and we're like, we'll do anything to get away from that. But then it was like, okay, we're going to reconnect with who we are. And like by going through that process, we just realized like, I remember shooting campaigns in New York and Japan and LA and like around the world. And it was so cool. It was so exciting. And it was like, I think we were trying to, it felt like we were trying to be global and look global and feel, but it was like, nah, man, we're it's all about us. We're here, Aotearoa, like this is us. And we did that. And then we found our voice again by building the tools. And what a great time pre-pandemic. I think I shot the next couple of campaigns after that. I went to Patea and Taranaki and Central North Island, and like these raw, emotional imagery from back here rather than the streets of New York. And then, if you showed someone like, what's Huffer about, and we show them a campaign, and you go to New York and go, here's Huffer, and it's like, oh, that was just a shot or some imagery around the corner. Like, what? But you show them Patea, wow, well, it's powerful, you know. So yeah, I suppose in the busyness of everything, it gave us the confidence to be ourselves, reconnect with the mind, the gut, the instinct.
Are you in a good place now? It seems.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I mean, pandemic's horrendous to some degree. It was like a roller coaster, and but everybody's got their story, and everybody's got their sense of trauma to some degree. Some worse than others, but we have an extremely good team. Work through that, and I think through that we created a plan to transform what we're doing based from that work we all did on the brand. And it was like, let's not try and dominate the world and go into all these new markets. Let's fall into ourselves and live ourselves and transform what we do with connecting with people through retail, creating the opportunities for people to come and hang out. Let's reconnect and really turn up product, and let's really work on community and what that actually means. So that's been our journey, which we managed to do between trying to survive in a pandemic. Then we're back on, we're back off, we're back on. But yeah, so we've been through this most amazing period, and I'm really proud. Like, the product right now is just, it's where it needs to be. It's on the right pathway, I suppose. I can see that, I can see the future from product more than you guys can, because we're sort of working in it. But yeah, it's amazing to be able to have the brand live in the products and the retail to serve its purpose, and then community building being what it needs to be.
When you go through that sounds incredibly powerful, like an incredibly powerful journey professionally, I imagine it's hard to not feel the same thing personally.
Yeah.
So how much of Huffer the brand or Huffer the business mirrors Steve Dunstan the person?
Yeah. It's been like 26 years of my life, and going from the early days of living it, doing it, like changing arrangements, handwriting invoices, delivering it, sewing it, to being into the position where that brand project we did really unlocked it a lot, and it's actually attracted its leadership, and it's attracted better talent, better people working for us, better culture, and then higher achievement, which then gives these great talented people coming into your business, and then you get the chance to not step back, but it's like you need to step away to get closer to some degree. So the things sometimes I battle with, like if say I was talking about photo shoots, I used to sort of be and produce and create most of the photo shoots, and then you get a van, you load it up, you do the production, you get there and you pack all the things up and you do this thing, you come back and it's midnight and you pull the stuff down, you may have a cold beer and go, whew, that was some tasks. I feel like, my contribution. But when you provide the tools for great people to come and do that to be in line on brand, and then not up sounds like the wrong word, but you get the space to be able to do more impactful work. So the journey from that can be, it can be challenging, like learning to let go, but then to put yourself in a space to be able to look at, providing a leadership from a different level. That's growth, but it's hard. Growth is hard and it hurts sometimes, and yeah.
We're into the section now labelled Steve Dunstan the person. Shay's just got us into that zone. And I've got we reached out to your wife, Nahuia, and she's given us a few little bits and pieces. And I want to read what she said. We asked, what Steve like, what insights can you give? And she said, he's really wonderful at listening to others, and his approach to people comes from a very optimistic place. His glass is always half full, and he thrives off of other people's energy in that way. How Steve thinks and where he chooses to put his thought space is quite interesting. Not sure if it will come up, but he has a wonderful way of thinking. Does that sound right to you? Is your life full of optimism, and where does that sort of way of thinking and approaching life come from?
Yeah, I'm definitely optimistic. I don't think that's a strength, to be honest. Sometimes you got to face the hard stuff. You could at times wash it with some optimism, but yeah, no, it is a good thing, and that would be true to some degree. It's very nice that she said that. Well, shout out. It's pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love connecting. I love people. I'm quite social. I love being around people. I get energy from people. I like collaborating. I think, and it's a beautiful thing when that works, when you collaborate, whether it be a social collaboration or a project you're working on, or from a more personal thing. Sorry. Ask me another question. I'm a bit lost.
That's all right. When did that genuine love for people, when did you really hone in on that as being almost like a superpower? Because I feel like I've got elements of that in my own personality. The same thing. I give energy, I take energy from people. And when you come to terms with it as being something that you can harness and use to your, I won't say advantage because that feels manipulative, but when you realize it, it's quite powerful to unlock. When did you have a moment, or when did you realize that was a thing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Maybe it's just a slow realization. And hey, I don't always get it right, I think, it's something to think about. This is good. I'm going to go away from this and do some, reach into the mind.
Well, I know you answer them. I don't want to jump in on it, but like your IG game, like some of the captions and stuff that you come up with, your thoughts that you put forward to the world. If anyone doesn't follow, like jump on Steve's IG. It's good.
Oh, man.
There's some amazing takes and reflective pieces of your observations and things on life. Like it's incredibly powerful and really admirable as well to kind of view.
No one's ever said that. I mean, those thoughts, I suppose, that communication like that is just coming from my gut and what's happening right now. Sometimes it's funny when you write things, like not just that, but when you write something at the time, it's like taking a photo. You take a photo and then you look at it and you're like, oh. But then you come back to it, and then that's when it's magic, and you go, wow, I've written some stuff, and come back to it and go, what? What? Did I write that? And then same with photography. You take, it's a creative process, and you take a photo, and then in the moment, it doesn't really make sense, but it takes time to then come back to it, to then put everything into perspective. So, I mean, sheesh, God, too much attention on me at the moment. What about you? No, I don't mind, but I'm sort of a bit lost for answers there, but
The mental health foundation element of it. You're using your platform, the people presence.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about the concept of social sustainability?
Yeah, like I suppose it came from, when we launched onto the scene and we became this love mark, and this, a lot of people want to work with us, and we want to give always. So, so many charities approach us, like the Westpac Rescue Helicopter or the breast cancer awareness, or we're doing these fashion shows and get involved in this and this. We always want to give, right? But I was like, got to a point, instead of waiting for people to approach us and saying yes and being generous, like what could we front foot and what means something to us? And it's not about me, it's some of the key players in our team. What do we identify with that really has impact, and like what's something that we could stand for? And it was like, the obvious thing was mental health, and we all have a mental health, and the state of it changes at times, and I'm no, don't get me wrong, I'm no expert on it, but if there's anything, the way I see it is, if we can create awareness and use our platform responsibly, or our connection with people, we do have a connection to some degree, or a voice. How can we use it? And we use it with, we invite other people to tell their stories, and much like this podcast, it's a platform for communication, but through the lens of mental health, and came up with the idea of people presence. It's like people being present, but also being present for people. So just the idea of, building a platform for awareness and to, create positive conversations around mental health.
Yeah, I like that. Does
so we do that in various forms. It's we have a internal staff people presence plan, and we have we make products where funds go to the Mental Health Foundation. We have a good relationship with them. When you come and get a coffee down at a Britomart store, you can tap to donate funds there. But all those actions and products and whatever, it's still bringing the conversation to the light, and I think that's really important. And I think for us, it's such a journey. It's like we are far from any expert at all, but at least standing for it, I think, is a good start.
Yeah, it's such an important direction to channel your
Yeah.
power and your platform.
Yeah.
For you personally, does that help with your mental health? Is that your space where you can sort of find yourself?
Yeah, surfing. Coming from a skateboarder, closed-minded skateboarder, we used to hate surfers. They're bloody surfers. So I was never really interested in surfing. I had skateboarding and then snowboarding. But then when Huffer started, I stopped becoming the responsibilities of business. Landlocked us to Auckland, which was, it's harder to snowboard. Skateboarding, as you get older, the concrete hurts a bit. You don't bounce like you used to.
And on those
I still got a board.
Yeah.
But anyway, then so I needed that outlet to do something at a level of progression. Like I think skateboarding, you learn how to ollie. That unlocks the next trick, which is the kickflip, and then all your tricks come, and then you can ollie down some stairs and hand rail. So that progression, that's the exciting part about those sports, the progression. So it's like, well, I can't. I was still snowboarding. I go to the mountain. I was like, I'm not as good as I used to be. Although I did say before I was, but
nearly.
No, but you're sort of not progressing. So it was like, what can I do that will give me that same? It's one, accessible, and then two, gives you that sense of progression and that sense of learning, I suppose. And then being new to surfing, Auckland, Piha Beach was only 40 minutes away, and it's something you could do sort of frequently. So I discovered surfing and then I was doing it for the progression, but now over time I've learned that it's, there's the whole community side of it, and there's people, and you can surf with people, and you can go on journeys and stuff. But when you're out there by yourself, which I did not do in lockdown, because
Not allowed.
Some people did until the helicopter came out and busted them. But when you're out there, if you can get those rare moments when you're out there by yourself and there's not many people around you, it's a different world. Like you have to, it's the adrenaline's there, and you need when it's big and you challenge yourself, you haven't got time to think. And surfing is really, again, coming back to your mind and how do you know just to paddle over here and a set's going to come here, and it's flow, and it's everything that I suppose skateboarding and snowboarding represented, but there's a nature side of it as well. Man, you go to the most beautiful places and you're connected to a new world, which is the water. There's plenty of things under the water, and I was always so scared of the water. I could swim in pools and stuff. I was scared of fish, and I was like, what are these jellyfish? And then just say it, sharks. Just say sharks, and then building up to sharks. And now I was lucky enough to go to Fiji in November, and I was out on restaurants, which is part of Cloud Break, another break. I was out. It was small, but I was just out there by myself. The boys on the boat, and there's shark rolls up to the edge of the reef. I just sat there. And I was like, I was calm to some degree. But if that was me pre-surfing, I would have, because it's nature. It's like I wasn't going to go and poke it and prod it, but I was just like, right, it's just the shark. That's its home. Just be calm. Put out calm vibes.
You do put out calm vibes, though. You practice that, right? Of almost absorb. I've heard this spoken of you. I haven't experienced it other than today, but not pushing your mood onto other people that come into your space, in terms of friendships and connections, right?
Yeah. You tell me this. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard it spoken of you that you're, and it's your low key. I guess your low key vibes is that there might be stresses going on in life, but rather than putting it onto kind of somebody else, it's I guess it's part of that being that people presence is being present for other people when they're in your space. And I've noticed that as we've gone through here, if you don't know the answer to something, you're not going to throw something out
No.
just for the sake of it. You'd rather stop, pause, reflect on it, and say, actually, you know what, guys, I can't reflect on that right now.
Yeah, world needs more people like that.
Totally. That don't just shoot from the hip and say something and then...
Yeah, I really like that when you get interview subjects and they're not afraid to just take a minute and think about what they're going to say instead of just firing something off. Yeah, really good observation.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's I'm learning so much from this podcast. This is cool, guys. Thank you. Like,
yeah, you're welcome.
I mean, I feel grateful to be here and to be able to have a conversation like this. I'm learning. It's good. Thank you.
Do you actively practice stuff like mindfulness or gratitude?
To some degree, yeah. Not as much as you can always do better, right? But I think, and coming back to your question about surfing, I think it's part of it. You know, you have a new appreciation and gratitude for nature, life, and you just don't have time to think about silly things that can worry you, you know, because they do. And then you just start overthinking things, and you know, you can worry I have worry at times, which is that's a vulnerability of mine. And then when you get out of it, you can snap yourself out of it. You're like, why am I worried about that? Where's that actually coming from? You know, and to surf can calm that down. You know, like light pieces of meditation, whatever that means. It could be a ritual, or it could be getting a coffee, or connecting with someone. So yeah, just trying to go on my own journey to work out how to look after myself and the people around me. Like, it's a good thing to explore. And some things I'd probably do subconsciously, which, you know, hence why I can't answer, because I don't know.
And what is it about Piha, the place? Can you articulate how special that is? Because we've had a few people that call Piha home that we've had on the podcast at various stages.
West is best.
And and it just seems to be this place that draws people in. But is there something about the natural landscape there as well that gives people energy? Yeah. I've never been, full disclosure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
True story. I'm waiting for an invite.
Oh, 2 beers on my dick then.
Hello.
There's a couple of things. Like, for one, you know, that was my discovery of transitioning, well, not out of snowboarding and skateboarding, but having my new interest of that progressive thing that I could do, my release, and then that connection to nature. But then, you know, it's a dead end road. So when you get there, there's a sense of calm. It's not transient. There's not people coming through it. They come and they stop. But the social side of me, 40 minutes to town. So you don't feel isolated. It's calm, but not isolated. Like, if you're out there, I'm very lucky to have a place there. Spend a lot of time there. But if you need to connect, or you want to go to the movies, or go and see someone in town, or get a coffee, you can just shoot over the hill. So you don't feel isolated and trapped, but calm and very dramatic. Like, it's very dramatic. It's like big cliffs and rocks, and it's got this raw beauty, which I can imagine a lot of listeners have been there. It's unbelievable, but it does have an energy. Like, sometimes it can not go dark, but it's powerful. So you just got to tread carefully and have respect for it. And I think you'll love it. So
we're starting a movement as well, and it sounds very similar to Hamilton.
Right.
Sounds very similar to our ambassador movement, that it's close enough, it's connected enough to Auckland, there's a vibe and an energy about it, and we're just trying to stop people shitbagging it.
I mean, if you look at it optimistically, Hamilton is a dream spot, you know? Closer to the mountain, half an hour to Raglan, you got the East Coast on the other side, like, really? Cheaper property.
We got him.
Yeah,
we got him.
We got him.
Ambassador.
Got him.
I'm on Hamilton.
I was thinking when you were talking about, Huffer being the first to sort of promote New Zealand and be proud of it and put it on a shirt. I feel like that's, we're doing that with Hamilton.
Ambassador.
We're
Ambassador. This is cool.
We're ambassadors. Just on Piha, I went out to Dave Wood. I'm not sure if you know Dave Wood.
I know
He does
Dave.
a Calm Under Pressure workshop, and I did 2 days out there a few months ago.
It
was amazing. It was so good, so well run, such a great workshop. Anyone listening, I can't recommend it highly enough. But they lead like a karakia on the lookout over the ocean, and then like beach activities and space for vulnerability. And it was just the perfect surrounding for it. Yeah, I spent a night in Dave's dad's lodge out the back that he'd hand built.
Oh, yeah, I know the one.
And just, such a special time. So, get out to
that's something I need to do. My wife, Nahue, she has done that as well. And, that's on my list. I need to do that. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, you definitely should,
and
so should everyone listening. Just a few little bits before we wrap up. I sort of wanted to reflect. 25 years. If someone could have told you when you were 21 and you were embarking on this Huffer journey, that this is when you would end up. It would be, I imagine, beyond your wildest dreams. But looking back, like, are you just filled with so much pride for the journey you've been on, or how do you think about the journey?
Yeah. I think it has been a journey. It has been a journey that's, things have got in the way, but coming back to the first thing we talked about is your gut instincts and following your passion, your dream, like pretty cheesy stuff that people say, follow your dreams. but so true, but don't, I mean, I just had this subconscious sort of knowing that it'll be okay, and like, this is the pathway, and don't fight it too much. So no, I didn't really know that I'd be here, but I knew I'd be all good, which comes back to your mental health, right? Just having that confidence to believe that things will be okay if I've got the saying, it's another token saying, but you go where you look, right? And I learned it through skateboarding, snowboarding. Snowboarding, right? You do a 180, when you switch around like that. You don't do it with your arms. It starts with your eyes. Your eyes turn, your head turns, your shoulders turn, your body turns, right? But you can apply that to life. You can, you really go where you look, visualization, doing diaries and life mood boards, and just whatever tool you need to create the vision to send you down a pathway that you don't know necessarily where it's going to take you, but you just have this ultimate trust and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's strong.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It really does.
And
it goes back to the optimism thing, I think.
Yeah.
That you just, you're secure that things are going to work out. And
oh, don't get me. I have my days. Yeah. You have anxiety, you have worry. I have that all the time. I think it's only normal to have that, but it's about how you deal with it, recognizing it, and getting back to that space of just the trust. If, maybe it's part karma, just be good, do good, go good.
And last one from me, again, back to that sort of vision when you were 21. Could you have ever imagined Huffer would do an Audi car? You did a collab with Audi, right?
Wow. Yeah. No way. And that is crazy. Wow. What an opportunity to work with a global design brand, sort of represents progression. And like, that was, we like to think that we innovate through, that was always one thing we didn't talk about, like the innovation, snowboard outerwear technology and like waterproof, breathable, seam sealed, Gore-Tex fabrics and things that we've worked with, that it comes back to what we talk about, the progression with snowboarding, skateboarding, then transitioning to surfing, then progression within our brand, and then to work with a global leader in that area, like Audi. Like, I mean, they're fancy nice cars, obviously, but just what they stand for, and I love the design aspects and technology. It's really quite intriguing. So yeah, to be able to put our brand on and collaborate on a car and design a car, wow, that's a massive tick. Yeah.
Does that pop up in your inbox? Is it Audi emailing you saying, "Hey Steve, would you like to design a car together?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's about again that collaboration, like nurturing relationships, working out, just having the optimistic outlook and proactively seeking positive collaborations.
There must be, just to jump on that innovation point that you made before, there must be an amazing sense of freedom when you are designing functional items for your sport.
Yeah.
To be like just blue sky thinking in a room going, man, when I was up on the slopes last time, like I actually got wet or I got this, or well, fuck it, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
And to then actually do it, like that satisfaction and bringing the collaboration.
Something working, eh?
Yeah, but bringing other people in to kind of solve that problem too.
Yes.
Innovation and collaboration kind of seem to be at the heart of everything that you guys have done.
Yeah. I mean, that's built into us through, I think, skateboarding, because that's all about progression.
Yeah. What does your day-to-day look like now? Because you've stepped away from the managing director side of the business, right? What's your title and what do you actually do for Huffer?
So I'm a brand director and founder. We have Kate Berry. She is our managing director. who does the most amazing job at just so much detail in that job. I feel for her. She's doing spreadsheets at midnight and she, very hard worker and very, very capable and very complimentary. So she is our managing director, which has put me into a space of, it's naturally happened over time, being our brand director. And as I was saying earlier, where I was hands-on on some things, to be able to grow into a place where you can work on the holistic health of the brand and, but it's harder because when you do a task, you finished it and you can celebrate, give yourself a high five. But when you get into that zone and just caring about the health and the organic health of the brand, the tangibility is harder to measure. So then, and then your sense of purpose and what you do, it's all based on a feeling. So that gets hard sometimes. But so my day-to-day is I'm split between our offices in Central Auckland and Ponsonby. I'm lucky to have this house at Piha. I get to spend a bit of time out there, but at the office most days, if not every day. And if not, my job is not really to be at the office. It's to be out there and, building connections and exploring. It's interesting. Hard one to answer.
Part of your job to be talking on podcasts and communicating the story, which is so cool. I'm so stoked with it.
I started my research with a question, and I've waited to the end now to ask the question. And it may seem like a really blasé one, but what is Huffer?
Right, what is Huffer? That's a great question. So the name came from nowhere, and I think it's really played well for us because it came out of pure creativity, and it doesn't mean anything else. So it's got a sense of purity, a sense of malleability. It's grown into Huffer being, if you're talking about the name Huffer, probably going on a shallower level here, but it just came out of pure creativity. And our logo, the three balls, as we call them, the three dots, they represent, if I can say, it's triangular in shape, right? Represents strength, right? Triangles are strong structures. There's no hard edges. So, if you look at the logo, there's three round balls or dots, and then the spacing between. So there's no hard edges. It represents approachability and inclusivity. You can come and be part of it and get in the middle of it. And then the fact, I don't know if you know, but it sits on a tilt, never flat. That's our sense of character and a unique personality. So that's what the logo means. Huffer is out of creativity, but what we are is we are here to earn the respect of the community and to create products that can help people express themselves with their identity and to build a safe place that people can trust. And when they do that, they know they're representing a brand or a product or a look that represents strong, good, wholesome values.
That's a good answer. That's a really good answer.
Great question at the end.
All right, I'm gonna start the wrap up before I throw to the professional outro guy. I was just thinking about this as we were talking. Huffer is one of these rare brands which transcends generations. My dad came round. He's 65 and retired and a football administrator. He was wearing a Huffer jersey.
Good on.
I wore Huffer shorts for about 10 years straight. I've still got a Huffer jacket. It's something which has been through my life, 25 years. And the public perception, you say the community's behind it, it certainly is. I feel like everyone, we saw Darcy wearing a Huffer, it's just everywhere, and it's such a good vibe to it. I'm so stoked that you came in and found the time to chat with us and tell us the Huffer story. The ups and downs, the adversity you pushed through to get where it is today is exciting. So many cool years to come, but throw it over to Shay.
I'll try. I scribble stuff down and I've made some notes. I'll try and kind of be as succinct as I can, but this might be quite poetic. So,
oh jeez,
I'll see how we go.
That made me cry, man.
I might make myself cry. I never really know with this, but it's a Kiwi success story. It's amazing, and I love the notion of you following your spirit, and I love that was unlocked at an early age, and the storytelling element of the Huffer journey, and I've seen you come to life when you reflect on specific moments, and it's amazing to personify that journey. But the presentness and I made the point before, the peace of mind and the strength in character to reflect and pause on things and not shoot from the hip, and that comes through in your words. And I mentioned earlier, you do have a beautiful mind. Your IG captions are fantastic. I pulled two things which spoke to me. One was around the concept of New Zealand, and the other one is around people. And the concept of New Zealand, it goes like this. It says, a departure from home expanded his world, but more importantly, has solidified the appreciation of who we are and where we're from. And then after a recent visit to Southland, I think it was last year actually, I say recent, but it was last year.
Oh, yeah, I think I know.
Refreshing to remind myself that people make places, and if you don't take time, you don't meet what is the most important part of the recipe, community. And building community is a big thing of what Stephen and I are trying to do with this podcast. And you said before, you go where you look, and we've been lucky today to look at an example of a really inspirational person that has created an amazing thing. And if we can go to places that you've been, we'll be in a really good place after 25 years of doing this and maybe beyond. So amazing wisdoms in that. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait for people to hear some of this and to share in that journey. Oh,
wow. Thank you. And you guys are doing exactly that. So keep up the good work. It's it's an amazing new format to do exactly that. And you guys do a great job. So thank you. I'm very proud to be here, and it's been very good.
Thank you.
Cheers, Steve. We've loved it.